What's up, everyone? Welcome to this day in Philly Sports History for April 9th, 2024. I'm your host, Jim Montgomery. Welcome to a Tuesday edition of the podcast. It is Tuesday. That means it's time for a little motivation / positivity. And this quote, I've been sitting on for a while, but I really, really like it. And I'll explain why it really hit home after this past weekend. But a razor blade is sharp, but can't cut a tree. An axe is strong, but can't cut hair. Everyone's important according to their own unique purpose. Never look down on someone unless you're admiring their shoes. And I really like that because we're so quick sometimes to judge others and put other people's down and say, oh, this, that, and the other. A perfect example of this was the other night at WrestleMania. And I know for a fact, because I was waiting in line with these people for a while, that they were not from Philadelphia. So I won't put this on the typical Philly fan. But the people in front of me were waiting in line, and they wanted to, we're at the Chicken and Pete, so the line obviously was longer. But they wanted to grab one of the souvenir cup, a soda in a souvenir cup. Well, I mean, the place was packed. And, like, I don't know what was going on. And I guess the different stations, it's hard to tell how many souvenir cups. So they were working on bringing them up. But these people were so rude to not only the cashier, but also the manager of the station there. And it just was absolutely ridiculous. Just putting them down, saying, oh, blah, blah, blah. And it was just, there was no need for it. I mean, those people were just doing their job. And then here you are waiting in line, not going to be able to get a soda or your crab fries or whatever without these people. And it's just, we're so quick to do things like that. And I mean, the comments they made, I won't go into it, but it was not worth it. And it was just very rude and just ignorant. And again, like that, those people were important because obviously everybody was waiting to get into WrestleMania to see the start. But man, it was just, I think if we take a step back and stop judging and don't look down on people, and I like the end part of that, unless you're admiring their shoes, which we'll get more into shoes in a minute, as we always do. But it's just, don't be so quick to do that. It's ridiculous. I mean, and this is coming from me, who I grew up in a blue-collar family, first one to go to college and all that. And, I mean, I used to see the looks and the fact that my dad would come to games still either in work clothes or with dirt on his hands and things like that. And it's just, there's no need for it. I mean, those people were just sitting there trying to do their job, the poor cashier, and she just had this look. And Thatcher and I were there, and I just remember looking at her like, it's all right, they're not from here. And then just having a conversation with her, treating her like a person and not as, hey, you're doing me a service, so I'm going to talk down to you. No. And it was just, hopefully it made her day. We gave her a nice little tip for it, but it was just, people can be so rude. So remember, a razor blade is sharp, but can't cut a tree. An axe is strong, but can't cut hair. Everyone is important according to their own unique purpose. Stop looking down on people. It's just, nobody's better than anybody else. Everybody fits in and does their thing. So you never know. God forbid if you're in a good job, you never know what could happen. You could be the one that's getting talked down to at some point if you lose your job or something. So just, it all comes back to just being compassionate and being nice to people. And that is today's Tuesday motivation. As you go through your week, just remember, treat everyone the same because everybody brings something different to the table and something important to the table. All right, quick update from yesterday. And as you always say, I want to make sure I get things accurate. I incorrectly did say, because I know eventually around this time is when they did, because the Baker Bowl was starting to fall apart. But the A's and Phillies in 1934, when they played that exhibition game, they were not playing in the same stadium. The game did take place at Shibe Park. The Phillies were still playing in the Baker Bowl, which was completely falling apart, but it was not the same stadium at the time. So I just want to make sure that was clear. All right, well, never in the history of the question of the day has something come back to completely bite me in the ass like the way this did. And it's okay. As somebody so eloquently commented on my Twitter, and he took that personally. I asked you yesterday, is it time for the Phillies to move on from Johan Rojas? 60% of you said no, and a lot of the comments I got were not yet. Give him through April. Give him still some time. Well, I don't know if he saw this or not, and maybe this is like the reverse of the standing ovation that happened for Trey Turner. But Phillies did win yesterday, 5-3 in 10 innings. Spencer Turnbull was absolutely lights out, 6 scoreless innings, 6 Ks. Trevor Hoffman struggled in the ninth and blew that save. But our pal Johan went 3 for 4 with an RBI double. Had an amazing, and in that first inning, I mean, I will say that is why he's up here. That catch he made in the first inning, if you haven't seen it, go back and check. That's why he's up here. And hey, if this is what, am I putting a poll of the question of the day, should we move on from him? If that's going to ignite him and turn him around, so be it. But 3 for 4 for Johan Rojas with the RBI double. I think they were saying that the double he hit was the hardest hit ball in his career, so he's seen the ball well. And Kevin Long said it's just a matter of it clicking. So maybe this is clicking. Yes, it's one game, but I mean, 1 for 4 would have been one thing, but he went 3 for 4, double, played outstanding defense. So Johan, if this is what it took to motivate you, I am glad to do it. But as always, thank you for participating in the question of the day. 60% of you said, no, it's not time to move on. I think I am in that camp now. After seeing yesterday, I think one game, it's still early in the season, so I want to see more. But hopefully this is the corner now that's being turned. But 267-495-8531 gets you into the Back to the Future voice and text line. Johan, you're back, baby. And speaking, we mentioned shoes, we mentioned Johan. I can't talk about shoes or even Johan Rojas at this point without mentioning Philly Goat. He all offseason, he was wearing the Believe shirt with the sleeves cut off while he was working out, got jacked. Hopefully this is the fruits of his labor paying off. So go get your own Believe shirt and then the shoes. And honestly, if you're going to look down and admire shoes, get those canvas loafers from phillygoat.com. Check out their selection. I showed you last week the fans, the Schmitties, and the Cape Mays. But, I mean, they got you covered all over. So go check out phillygoat.com. Use the promo code Jim Montgomery for 10% off your order. That's phillygoat.com. Be like Johan Rojas. Get the Believe shirt. Get the fans to match. And use the promo code Jim Montgomery for 10% off. Get ready for spring with phillygoat.com. All right, also, be sure to check me out on social media. Follow me on Twitter. We had a good conversation. Like I said, the one follower said, and he took that personally, like Michael Jordan. That's Jimbo_Mont there, as well as TikTok, on Instagram at Philly Jimbo. Like and subscribe to the YouTube channel. We're slowly creeping up there, trying to grow this, hit those specific benchmarks for the algorithm so we can grow this. I have some good ideas lined up for the summer. It's just a matter of getting the time for my day job to actually do that. So that's also at Jimbo_Mont. Like and subscribe. Tell a friend. Tell everyone. Let's have some fun and grow this thing. All right, Sixers in action tonight against the Pistons down at the Wells Fargo Center. Pacers are in Toronto, and the Heat are in Atlanta, as those three teams are in a battle for the 6th, 7th, and 8th seed. Sixers are still one game back of the Pacers. They're half game up on the Heat, but there's still a lot of time left, and all three teams have winnable games. Although the Hawks could beat the Pacers, and who knows? Toronto, maybe they can get lucky and beat the Pacers, or the Atlanta could beat the Heat, I should say. But lots of NBA action. We'll have the update tomorrow. The Sixers could pull to a tie for that 6th seed tonight if all breaks well, but we'll keep an eye on that. Flyers, meanwhile, are in Montreal, and they need some help. The Penguins did lose in overtime to Toronto last night, so they got the point. And currently the Flyers are one game back. The Penguins and the Rangers are tied for that. Or I'm sorry, not the Rangers. The Red Wings are tied for that final wild card spot. Flyers are 2 games behind the Islanders for third place in the Metro Division. The Islanders are in action tonight against the Rangers, and then Detroit and the Capitals play each other. It's like 6 teams going for those final 2 spots in the East, so it should be fun. They need to get it together, and it's not like they've been playing close games. They're not playing well. But we'll keep an eye on that. Hopefully they can get back. I mean, they've been streaky all year. I don't think they've been 7 games in a row streaky, but it's certainly within the realm of possibility that they could win 4 in a row here to end the season. So hopefully that starts tonight up in Montreal for the Flyers. The Eagles, the draft is coming up. So as everybody's doing their mock drafts, and really, I mean, everybody, like my dog had a mock draft. Like, so you don't pay attention too much to them because ultimately it's all about what perception is. So I don't really get too caught up in mock drafts at all. But what I do get caught up in is Howie, sign Devontae. Just do it. Extend that contract. Time is running out. I'm going to say it every day until you sign him. Extend Devontae. All right. Today, we're going to go back to 1974. And on this day in 1974, the Flyers, hopefully we're going to bring some good juju to the Flyers today. They beat the Atlanta Flames 4-1 to open up the Stanley Cup playoffs. Oris Kinderchuk had 2 goals for the Flyers. They would go on to win that round 4-0. They would beat the Rangers 4-3, and then ultimately beat the Bruins 4-2 to win their first of 2 straight Stanley Cups. But on this day in 1974, they kicked off that Stanley Cup run with a 4-1 win over the Atlanta Flames. The Flames moved to Calgary then in 1980. The Flyers, meanwhile, are still searching for that elusive Stanley Cup. They won the back-to-back and just have not won since. And I think it's one of the longest streaks they have right now of teams that have losing streaks in the Stanley Cup Finals. They've lost 6 straight. But on this day in 1974, it was the Flyers winning 4-1 over the Atlanta Flames, setting off their Stanley Cup run, which culminated with beating the Bruins 4-2 in the Stanley Cup Finals. All right, going to shift gears a little bit before we get into the last 2 things today. And with all of the attention that Caitlin Clark was getting, just how many people were tuning in to watch that women's final with Dawn Staley, there's the Philly tie and everything. It got me thinking, and I saw some people, and there's like a grassroots movement on Twitter I did see as well. There's a couple different accounts that really are trying to fight this, or fight for this, I should say. But here's the question of the day. Is Philly ready for a WNBA team? And by ready, it's one thing to say we have a WNBA team and that's it. But would you go support? Is there enough fan base? I really think there is. And I don't know. Maybe you could start off playing at the Leah Kors Center. I mean, it fits 10,000 there. But I don't think it would be a bad thing at all. And I know the WNBA is looking to expand, but personally, I'm all in on a WNBA team. And one of the things, like I said, if you want to see basketball at its purest form, the women, like watching that women's tournament, like those girls play so fundamentally sound. And I think a lot of the men's basketball, especially in college, could learn a lot from watching the women's game, just from a fundamental standpoint. But that is today's question of the day. Is Philly ready for a WNBA team? 267-495-8531 get you into the Back to the Future voice and text line. For me, I'm all in. I totally think I would go down to games. Again, I don't know if the Leah Kors Center is the answer. You could do it at the Wells Fargo. I don't know. But I just feel as though it's time, and there was just so much excitement and buzz, and especially here because it was Dawn Staley, and Dawn Staley is such a legend in Philly. I really think that it could happen. So let me know what you think. WNBA team in Philly, yay or nay? 267-495-8531. Get you into the Back to the Future voice and text line. All right. Today, our top 20 memory for the 20th anniversary of Citizens Bank Park. don't have to go back far for this one, and it's Game 4 of the 2022 NLDS. Phillies came in leading the Braves 2-1 and looked to clinch it, so they didn't have to go back to Atlanta for Game 5. Noah Syndergaard was on the mound for the Phillies. Meanwhile, Charlie Morton was on the mound for the Braves, and Charlie Morton was, I forgot this stat until I was getting prepped for today. He was 5-0 with a .73 ERA in elimination games in his career. So that's the guy, if you're the Braves, you want it. But it didn't take long for the Phillies to break it open. Brandon Marsh hit a 3-run homer in the second. JT came back after Atlanta scored a run in the top of the third, hit that inside the park home run that ultimately that was the straw that broke the camel's back. They scored in the Braves scored in the top of the third. JT got that run back, and it was just deflating. And then later in the sixth, Reese, JT, and Bryce had 3 straight RBI singles, and that ultimately, that was just celebration mode at that point. Bryce hit the cherry on top in the 8th. He had a solo homer, and the Phillies moved on to the NLCS, where they took on the Padres. And it was the first time in the NLCS since 2010, and we all know how it worked out for the Phillies in 2022. But today's Citizens Bank Top 20 memory for the 20th anniversary is Game 4 of the 2022 NLDS. Phillies clinched, beat the Braves, and moved on to the NLCS. But the highlight, obviously, of this game was JT's inside the park home run. All right, finally today, going back to those Flyers and our team with unfinished business that left a little bit of meat on the bone, and I feel like this one left a lot of meat on the bone. That's the 1999-2000 Flyers, and that season was just a hectic season for the Flyers from the very start. Ron Hextall ended up retiring. Gene Hart passed away, legendary broadcaster. Dmitry Turtishny was one of their rookies who tragically died in a freak boat accident that offseason as well. Once the season started, head coach Roger Nielsen was diagnosed with bone cancer and forced to step aside. They traded in-season Rod Brindamore, who was a fan favorite and a inductee to this year's 2024 Philadelphia Sports Hall of Fame class. Traded him for Keith Primo in the hopes that he would be able to just be another dominant center to play alongside Eric Lindros. But that was the year all the stuff hit the fan between Eric Lindros and Bobby Clark. Lindros had the 2 concussions. It just was, it got out of control from there. They stripped him of his captaincy. He was out indefinitely. Bobby Clark basically called him a baby in the media, said he needs to suck it up. Despite all of that, as well as a 15-point deficit in the standings, the Flyers would go on to win the Atlantic Division that year and have the number 1 seed in the Eastern Conference. They finished with a record of 45, 22, and 12 with 105 points. Rolled through the Sabres in the first round 4-1. Beat the Penguins in the next round, including that infamous 5 overtime game when Keith Primo scored the game winner. And they were taking on one of their arch rivals at the time, the New Jersey Devils, in the conference finals. They lost game 1 at home, but then won 3 straight to take a commanding 3-1 lead. And then the wheels fell off. Lindros returned for game 6, scored their only goal in game 6. Forcing game 7. I'm sorry. They had already lost game 5. Lindros came back in game 6, scored the only goal. The Devils forced game 7. And then early on in that game, in game 7, that was when Scott Stevens nailed Eric Lindros, gave him another concussion again, knocked him out of the game. And Eric Lindros just never returned to play for the Flyers again. Devils obviously would go on to beat the Flyers, and then they ended up going to the Stanley Cup to beat the Dallas Stars 4-2. So it is within the realm of possibility that the Flyers could have won the Stanley Cup that year. And as I always do, I played it in What If Sports, taking Eric Lindros out of the equation. And the Flyers did beat the Stars in 7 games in dramatic fashion. So who's to say that could not have happened in real life, because the Devils ended up beating them as well. But today's Philly sports team with unfinished business, the 99-2000 Flyers, and I just remember being so invested in that team and just being so disappointed at the ending and just how they were right there on the brink and it just fell apart. So certainly left a lot of meat on the bone for that team. All right, today's Citizens Bank Park Top 20 memory of the day was Game 4 of the 2022 NLDS. Phillies beat the Braves thanks in part to JT's Real Muto's inside the park home run. Braden Marsh hit a 3-run homer. Bryce hit a solo bomb, had a couple RBIs. Just a great game. And I just remember how fun this game was to watch. On this day back in 1974, the Flyers began their playoff run to their first ever Stanley Cup championship, beating the Atlanta Flames 4-1. Be sure to check out Philly Goat. Get the Phillies Believe shirt. Check out the shoes. In honor of Maxey, they have a ton of Tyrese Maxey shirts if you want to go check them out. But use that promo code Jim Montgomery for 10% off your order. They're doing a great job over there. So be sure, get ready for spring with phillygoat.com. Let me know your thoughts. Is Philly ready for a WNBA team? I think so. I think they should be on the short list of cities that get a WNBA team. 267-495-8531 get you into the Back to the Future voice and text line. Let me know what you're thinking. Be sure to check me out on the social media. Like and subscribe to the YouTube channel. Information about the Philadelphia Sports Hall of Fame induction class as well as ticket information is in the description. Let's go Sixers. Let's go Flyers. Phils, let's make it 2 in a row against the Redbirds from St. Louis. Remember, don't judge people. Don't look down on anybody unless you're admiring their shoes. Because always remember, razor blade is sharp but can't cut a tree, and an axe is strong and can't cut hair. Everybody is important and has their own role in their own unique way. So don't judge and just be a nice person. Like, nothing even, it's not that hard. Don't be a dick, basically, is what I'm saying. Go have yourselves a Tuesday. This has been This Day in Philly Sports History. I'm Jim Montgomery, and until next time, I'll see you when I see you.